Okay, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Digital Business Student Association's Digi Talks or Winter Series. This is our Career Success webinar. I'm your host for this morning, Michaelia Marks. I'm a third-year student in the Digital Business Management program, and I'm also the president of the DBSA. And today I have the pleasure of interviewing Irina, who is a past student of Humber. She also did the Digital Business Management program. So Irina, welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Michaela, and thank you everyone for having me today. It's always a pleasure to be involved in the DBSA events and to see you guys grow and doing something really wonderful with this student association. So thank you for having me today.
Thank you for agreeing to join us to be one of our guests. We're very, very grateful. So just our agenda for this morning, I'll just go into a brief introduction of Irina, some of her accomplishments, and then we'll go into some of the questions that we have. Then we'll open the floor for questions from the audience. And then we'll end off with a segment that we call the rapid five question. All right, so briefly, Irina, she did her marketing diploma at Humber at the North Campus during the years 2013 to 2015. After that, she started her bachelor's program at the Lakeshore campus in the Digital Business Management program, as I mentioned before, and she completed that in 2018. After that, she went on to do her Master's of Science in Management at Ryerson University, where I believe she did her thesis in social media management. I believe so.
Influencer marketing. Yep.
Okay, yes. While she was at Humber, she was a research assistant for the Vulture of E-Business program, now rebranded as the Humber Online Solutions. She was also a member of the DBSA executive team. You can see that she was quite involved. Moving on to her career, she's currently the marketing manager at Greenlock Environmental Hoarding. She's also a professor at Humber College, a part-time professor, which she commenced in January. While at Ryerson, she was a research assistant in their social media lab, and she was also a teaching assistant while she was there. Some fun facts about Irina. She moved to Canada from Romania 7 years ago. She bakes the world's best fudgy brownies,
Yes,
according to her.
I do.
And her all-time favorite movie is Mean Girls. I love Mean Girls, by the way.
Yeah, it's a masterpiece.
I know, I love it. Okay, so that's a bit about Irina. Okay, so moving on, her life mantra is courage is grace under pressure. And this the person who said this was Ernest Hemingway, I believe. For me, one of the first questions that I have is, why is this your life mantra? Courage is grace under pressure. What does this mean to you?
A couple of things. Well, I think that courage is all about the way that we handle our fears, and essentially it means doing what we have to do and doing the right thing and doing the brave thing, even though inside we're feeling scared and weak. And it also reminds me of another article that I was reading the other day that said something like, in the lines of, strength doesn't really come from strength. Strength actually comes from weakness. So that's something that really resonates with me, and I apply that in my professional life as well as in my personal life. I think that being brave and being courageous has to do with how well you handle being put in difficult situations and being scared of things, but doing them anyway because it's the right thing to do and you have to do it.
Do it when you're scared anyways. Thank you. And one of the, as you were saying that, one of the things that I remember someone said to me about last year or 2 years ago, where they said, when you feel afraid, do it afraid anyways, you
Yes,
know.
exactly.
So thank you for that. Okay, so why did you choose the Digital Business Management program?
For a couple of reasons. So first of all, as you were mentioning, I finished my marketing diploma at Humber College at the North Campus. And I did that diploma just to kind of see if marketing really is for me. And once I did finish the diploma, I felt like I needed more. I wanted to continue and get more education. I became very interested with digital marketing and specifically social media marketing.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, I had the option to choose between two degree programs at Humber. Option one was the marketing program, and option two was the e-business marketing program, as it was called at the time. And now it's, of course, the digital business management program. So the main reason why I chose the digital business management program is because of the flexibility that it offers. When I was looking at the courses and comparing the courses between the two programs, I thought that the digital business management program offers you a lot more flexibility career-wise in terms of potential career paths that you can take afterwards, because you have courses like web development, and you can then move on and have a career in doing web development. It offers courses in project management, product development, and so on. So I chose it mainly because it was a long-term decision. It was a long-term strategy that I had in mind. Say that if in 5 to 6 years I wanted to switch from social media marketing or from digital marketing, I wanted to have that option and that basically that backup when it comes to my education that allows me to switch paths in my career at any point. So that's why I thought that this program was the perfect fit, because it gave me a wide array of knowledge all across the spectrum. So starting with research, project management, like I said, product development, analytics, and so on. So
Okay, thank you for that. Next question, what was your experience at Humber College as a student like? And I'm also interested to hear your perspective on being a student and now being a professor. Like what is that? What was that like, and what is that like now currently as a professor?
I love that question for for a couple of reasons. So when I first started Humber, I had just moved to Canada. So Humber, in time, it became to me like a second home. It's where I met my best friends. It's where I met professors that I love. It's where I made a lot of great memories with people that I really care about. And it's also the place where I grew as a student, as a person. In the beginning, I had a lot of challenging times in the beginning. It wasn't easy adapting to the educational system here in Canada. But then, with the help of some wonderful, wonderful professors that I met throughout my time here at Humber, including in the marketing diploma program and here at the Lakeshore campus in the degree program, it gave me the opportunity to learn and to grow so much as a person. And one thing that I can say is that my experience was a lot enhanced by all of the outside of the classroom activities that I was involved in while as a student. So in this case, the Digital Business Student Association, the voucher for e-business program, now called Humber Online Solutions. These were all experiences that helped me meet new people, grow my network, and also become a top student in my program with the help of my professors, of course. And now moving on to now that I am a professor at Humber, it's quite a change in dynamic, I have to say. It's exciting. It always challenges me creatively every single week, and I just love seeing my students grow in the classroom. I'm always trying to make every single class special for them. I'm trying to be that professor that I always loved when I was at Humber. I had professors that made it worth coming to school at 8 a.m. on a Monday morning.
Facts,
It was
facts.
totally worth it. And I would sit there in the first row and listen to every single word that they were saying. And these professors, they really changed my life. So that's exactly what I am aspiring to be as well for my students, to make them love coming to school and to educate them and to put that knowledge and that motivation inside of them. So
Awesome, awesome. And you know, just hearing you share how involved you were while being at Humber, like a lot of students, I realized that they will just come to school, go to class, go back home. Being involved in the DBSA, being involved in uh, e, the Humber Online Solutions program, what were the benefits? Were there any benefits, starting your master's or even starting the working world? Did you see, okay, it really paid off?
Mhm.
In
Yeah,
what
that's
way?
a great question. And I'm glad you asked that because as I was applying for my master's degree at Ryerson, I was able to use a lot of the experience that I had outside of the classroom at Humber to
Yeah.
get into the program, and not just to get into the program, to apply for scholarships and bursaries because I
Mm,
had a lot of leadership experience and a lot
yeah.
of volunteering experience. And another good point was that while at Ryerson, I was able to use my experience as a research assistant at Humber while I was doing the Humber Online Solutions program. While I was a research assistant there, I was able to use that experience and apply as a teaching assistant at Ryerson University. So it helped a lot. It seems like they are small little tasks, and you would think, oh, how is this going to help me in the long run? But really, from my experience at least, it adds up. And I can say that all of the activities that I was involved in at Humber really had an impact on my career afterwards as a master's
Yeah.
student at Ryerson. It helped definitely a lot.
Awesome. Thank you. So for those students who are watching, hashtag get involved.
Get involved. Yeah, absolutely. It's the best thing you can do.
All right, off to the next question. How did you jumpstart your career after finishing your degree? Because now you're a marketing manager. So how did that come about?
So again, from getting involved, while I guess I got lucky to be honest, but at the same time, it's also because I was really involved while I was doing my marketing diploma at the North Campus. You are required to complete an internship over the summer. So I had started working at a marketing agency, and
Mm-hmm.
that started out as my internship. Now, after my internship ended over the summer, the company decided to hire me full time. And starting from a social media coordinator, I kind of moved up the scale and became their full time marketing manager at the company. So it's still where I am today. I've been with them for 5 years and it's been amazing. And I was lucky enough to find a team of people that really values me and I value them. So it all started from getting involved while I was doing the internship, the required summer internship at Humber. So my advice to students is to really look for a place that resonates with them and with their work ethic, because you never know, this internship is supposed to last just over the summer. It could actually become your job. It is possible, it is doable. So
Okay. And following up with that, what are your responsibilities as a marketing manager?
So my responsibilities can typically be categorized in two different branches, if you will. So the first one has to do with content creation. So I handle all of the content writing for the blog. So that includes actually researching blog topics, making sure that the blogs are also optimized for search engines like Google, coming up with the artwork for the blogs, and actually writing the content itself. And the same goes for the social media content. So over the years, I've been in charge of handling various social media accounts. The company didn't have social media prior to me starting my job there. So it was one of my main responsibilities to find the social networks that worked best for the company and for our goals for what we were trying to do. So to this day, that is still my main responsibility, creating content and working with our graphic designers, with our copywriters, and with our web development team to essentially manage the content for the company. So blog, website, social media, any artwork, photography, videos, and so on. So that's one side of it. But the other aspect of my job is actually related to lead generation. We search for leads on LinkedIn typically, and we have a way of prospecting for people. We have a system of prospecting for people, generating leads and keeping track of them using a CRM system. So basically nurturing leads and converting them into potential customers.
So the next question for you, Irina, what do you like most about your work? And also, what do you like least about your work? And this should be interesting.
This is definitely interesting because what I like most about my work is also what I like least about my work. And I'll explain that in a second. So my entire career, I have been used to working remotely. So being able to take my work with me anywhere. So essentially telecommuting. And as long as my projects would get done on time, it would all be great. So in my first years of working remotely and only coming to the office as needed for certain client meetings, it seemed like, and it still is, the perfect job. You can take it with you everywhere. You just have to have that self-motivation and the necessary organizational skills to handle everything and to be a self-starter, to manage all the work on your own with little supervision. But that worked for me wonderfully, and it still does. But it could all, in some days, it is also what I like least about my job. In certain days, I miss my coworkers. I kind of I want to go to the office and be there with them and share a joke with them, see them and connect with them basically. So while telecommuting and like working from home, it gives me the flexibility to work and still have a personal life at the same time and multitask. Essentially, it could also sometimes it feels a little bit like it is isolating me at times a little bit. So it's what I love about my job, but it's also on certain days it's what I like least about my job. It just depends on the task at hand and I guess the way you look at it basically has the pros and cons.
Interesting, because honestly, that's one of the things that got me attracted to this field, because I'm not one for 9 to 5s.
Yeah, yeah. Most
um,
millennials and people in our generation aren't. They want that flexibility and that adaptability, which is a good thing, but
yeah,
sometimes it can take it with a grain of salt. Sometimes it could
yeah.
also work against you a little bit. So you have to have that motivation inside of you. It's not for everyone, that's for sure.
Yeah, and having this flexibility to work from home, I'm curious, because I know some of us may be procrastinators and last minute persons. Oh, I work best last minute. Like, how do you manage your time to manage yourself, manage your time to ensure tasks get done on time and that they get done well?
I think that it has to do with your internal drive, with how much you want to essentially just not let the people around you, not let your coworkers down. I feel like for me that is the one thing that has always kept me motivated, is that when I say that I'm going to get something done, I
Mm-hmm.
get it done. It doesn't matter if I'm going to be up until 3 a.m. working on a project. It really doesn't matter. I think that respecting your word and staying true to what you had promised and not letting your coworkers, your team down is, for me, as that is the main motivator. So if I say that I'm going to get something done, it does not matter how, I just do it. I get
Yeah.
it done. So either you were like I was saying earlier, you're either built for it or you're not.
Mm-hmm.
You either have that internal drive in you, that fire in you that keeps you motivated,
Mm-hmm.
or you don't. In which case, that's totally fine. I mean, most people enjoy the 9 to 5 schedule, and it has its benefits, and that's okay. It just depends, I guess, on your personality. Really, it does depend on your personality. It's either
not
for you or it's
or
not.
not for you, which is fine because I
Yeah,
know some people who they're like, I want a 9 to 5 because I like the stability
exactly.
and like to know what's coming next, what I'm
Hmm.
going to do. But then you have other persons who are like, nah, fam, that's not for me. And I believe
Exactly.
it's fine. So I
Yeah.
believe it's finding what works for you.
Exactly. I think as young professionals, people who just graduate, people like you and I, it's important to experiment with this really because you may think that you want a 9 to 5 job, but then
Yeah,
you do it for a year or two and then you realize, hey,
that's not,
this isn't for me.
yeah,
I want to have that flexibility, or the other way around. You work from home for a while and then you start being aware of the advantages and disadvantages, and you realize maybe I do want a 9 to 5 job, maybe I am craving that stability. So I
yeah,
think it's really important to experiment with both because you never know, they both give you different perspectives as a young professional.
got you. Thank you. Moving on, what are some soft and technical skills you believe are most important for someone entering the field or industry?
So I think that in terms of soft skills, the first thing that comes to mind is being open to criticism. I
Mm,
think that's something that not a lot of people talk about, especially if you try and Google, for example, like if you try and look up soft skills that are most valuable to employers. I think that it's not often talked about how what a thick skin you have, how open you have to be to criticism and taking it with a lot of grace, taking it with professionalism, and most importantly, not getting offended when someone gives you feedback
yeah.
and you do something really wonderful with it afterwards. You take it and you do something great with it. That's something that comes directly from my experience as a master's student. Anyone that does research, because my master's was research based, anyone that does research can tell you how nerve-wracking it could be to have people picking apart at your project that is basically,
Yeah.
it's like your child. As long as you're in that master's program, that research project is like your child, and you have people coming to you and just tearing it apart, criticizing every single little detail of it. And what you have to do is take that feedback and do something good with it, implement it, work with it, and most importantly, not get offended by it. I think so many people take criticism so personally when really it isn't. It's all about taking it with grace. So I think that applies to any workplace as well. When you have managers or coworkers giving you feedback, I think it's so important to take it with grace, basically, and do
Mm,
something great with it. And then I think another soft skill that comes to my mind is adaptability, um, being being flexible enough to adapt to any environment and any challenge and problem that comes your way, and not getting too used to doing things only one single way. I think that it's important for us as recent graduates to have that adaptability to face any kind of problems and basically change your mindset as the situation and as the problem changes.
and
And
the
then
technical skills.
in terms of technical skills, I think that any skills that enable you to be a data analyst or be a data scientist, so learning a little bit of SQL, learning some data visualization software, or some statistical analysis software like R or Python, for example. I think these are all great skills, because the industry needs people who are able to interpret and analyze data. So I think these are all valuable skills. So any kind of skill related to data analysis, I think, is essential. You have to learn how to interpret numbers and present them regardless of your field. Yeah.
Hmm. Okay. Thank you for that. And I mean, one of the things that you said earlier on that is still stick that I think will stick with me for a while is to take criticism with grace.
Yes.
So, what current issues and trends are in the field that we should be aware of or should know about?
That's a good question. I think that kind of relates to my earlier point about data analysis. I think that current issue that we see is that we have people that are either really good at data analysis and statistics and analytics in general and have that those technical skills really nailed down, or on the other side of the spectrum we have people that are really amazing business professionals. They're great at communication. They're creative. They can come up with content. They're essentially, for example, they can be social media specialists. But I think that one issue that we have is we don't really have an intersection between the two. I don't think that we have enough people that can analyze and interpret data and also present it in a way that is digestible for managers
Yeah.
and superiors, and communicate it in a professional way. So I think that, in my opinion, this is one issue that we see, is that we have people that are either good at analytics or good at business communications, but we don't see an intersection between the two. So I think that for business graduates, for people like us, that's one thing I would recommend is being that intersection between creativity and
Mm.
communications and data analytics, having those technical skills that set you apart and also give you a huge boost in salary and desirability in general from employers.
Just a follow-up question to that. You're mentioning with these technical skills, do you have any recommended websites or places where we can get to, further learn these skills?
Yeah, that's a good question. When it comes to online, like learning online, I think Linda from LinkedIn is a
Mm-hmm.
great place to start. And if you're looking for in-person training, like face-to-face training, classroom training,
Yeah.
I know that the Interactive Advertising Bureau of Canada, so IAB, used to offer some really amazing courses on topics of that are very important. So, for example, like SEO or data analytics, I know that they used to offer that. And there are also a variety of other organizations, like smaller ones. Camp Tech comes to mind. And there's also, kind of in the same line, we have Ladies Learning Code, another organization that this is what they do. They offer these boot camps. And that's definitely a great place to start to see if it's for you and to kind of get an introduction and a flavor in these types of courses.
Yeah, before you dive fully into.
Exactly. Yeah. Otherwise, I think that a lot of post-secondary institutions offer these types of classes too, if that's something that you really want to commit to.
So how do most people get into this field? Like, what are some common entry level jobs? Because one of the things that, I often send a lot of students reiterated is that, it's one of the beauty of this program is that it doesn't limit you to a particular area, but at the same time, it's so wide. So like, what are some common entry level jobs?
So I can tell you from my experience that if you want to get into digital marketing, just based off of my own career path, a good place to start is being a social media coordinator. So in other words, the person that creates the content and manages the content for a company or a brand's social media channel. So I think that that's a great way to start, because it gives you an idea of what actually goes behind the content management and the strategy of an organization. But one thing that I would suggest students keep in mind and graduates keep in mind with these types of jobs, I was actually reading an article. It was a very interesting article about something that we call pink collar jobs. And pink collar jobs are actually these types of social media coordinator, social media manager, content manager types of jobs that are catered mainly towards women, hence pink collar, and they typically they require the candidate to wear all sorts of hats. So you have to be creative enough to create content. You have to have graphic design skills. You have to have copywriting skills. You have to have analytics skills. You have to be flexible enough to work on the weekends if required. And one of the pitfalls with these types of jobs is that after a while, salary kind of stops. There's a ceiling at
Mm-hmm.
which you can stop, and you also stop growing. So after a while of doing social media management, you kind of see everything there is to see, and you kind of do everything there is to do, and you stop learning. So my point is that yes, social media coordinator jobs and social media management jobs in general are a good way to set your foot into a company. They're a good place to start,
Yeah.
but be aware of not um, spending more time than required in these types of jobs. So
Mm-hmm.
move along. Don't stay longer than necessary. There's be aware that there is a ceiling with these types of jobs. Yeah.
Got you. Thank you. And our final question, well, the final question that I have for you, what steps would you recommend students in this program take to prepare to enter this field?
Well, a couple of things, and I'm going to start with a really obvious one that is oftentimes overlooked. I think that having your LinkedIn up to date and preparing your LinkedIn profile with your most recent experience and with keywords for recruiters to be able to look for you, that's a good place to start and a good first step that is oftentimes overlooked by many people. Many people think that it's enough to just apply to jobs online and that's kind of how you're going to get discovered. But I think that LinkedIn is the future of job searching. I think LinkedIn is where it's at in terms of finding good quality jobs and in terms of building your network and building that relationship with recruiters on LinkedIn. And one other recommendation I have for students is to aim to go for a coffee or for what we call an informational interview at least once a week or once every 2 weeks with a professional in your field. And what I mean by that is you don't have to go begging for a job or asking for a job. No, that's not what I'm saying. I think it's so important to simply go out for a coffee with people and ask them, so hey, how did you get into this field? What do you like about your job? What don't you like about your job? Just getting that information and building your network, and you'd be surprised how many people would be willing to go out for coffee, especially with recent grads. There's nothing wrong with it, and there's definitely certainly no shame in asking for meeting with someone just to get information out of their own experience. Most people who love their job will be happy to share that experience with, especially with young people and
Yeah.
graduates. Yeah.
If you could do it all over again, would you choose the same path for yourself? If yes, why? And if not, what would you change?
I wouldn't change anything from my path. I don't regret a single decision that I made. I think that I would definitely do it all over again because it led me to discover my passions. It led me to being a professor at Humber College, which is by far what I can say the most rewarding experience in my career so far. And yeah, every decision and every step I took in my career in my education so far has led me to either meet wonderful people that I have learned so much from, or essentially discover something that I love. So, yeah,
You wouldn't change anything.
no, I wouldn't. I would do it all over again.
Ah, that's amazing. Alrighty, so we're moving on to our next segment in our webinar, and that's the Q&A. And so just a reminder for the persons that are online, you can ask your questions in the Q&A section of the app, or you can also send them via the chat box. Okay, so we have a few questions here. The first one that we have is from Devin, and he's asking first of all, how did you find your internship? Because personally, I'm a third-year student now, so I'm looking for an internship. So how did you find your internship, and what task were you asked to do during your internship?
Yeah, that's a good question. I found my internship through, I believe, the Humber career portal. I think Humber, at the time at least, I'm not sure if they still have it, but at the time, Humber had a career portal where employers could go post their jobs, and then us as students, we can go and apply with a resume and a cover letter. So essentially, that's how I found my job, through the Humber career portal. And my company was looking for an intern to manage their social media. So at the time, I went for the interview,
Mm-hmm.
and the interview went well. It went fantastic, and I thought that, I'm gonna get this internship. This internship is wonderful, and I loved my boss. Like, just talking to her, she was amazing. But then I never got a call back. So I'm sitting there thinking, what went wrong? Why am I not getting a call back? I really thought that this interview went well. So I followed up, and I sent a follow-up email, and then I followed up with a phone call too. And it turns out that she had just gotten busy with a lot of things that were going on in the company at the time. But my point is, what the biggest lesson learned from this experience is that after an interview, you should always follow up with the person, that with the manager that interviews you, because you never know really why you don't get that phone call right away. So you should always follow up, always be persistent, and there's no shame in following up and being persistent. And also, the second thing that I wanted to mention is that don't just apply for 5 to 6 jobs and then stop thinking that, oh, no one is hiring me, no one is interested in me. Typically, I would say that there's about 1 to 2% return. So if you apply for 10 jobs, then expect one interview out of that, and so on. You have to be very persistent, and don't just stop because you applied to a certain amount, and then you think that you're not the right candidate. You have to be very persistent and keep applying for different jobs, and always follow up.
Okay, always follow. Advice noted. Our next question is coming from Andre. He's asking, what is the most challenging problem you have come across working in the field?
The most challenging problem. Well, when it comes to content creation, I would say that in social media in general, I think that the most challenging problem is measuring return on investment. So you're gonna get hired, say for example, as a social media manager, as a content manager. I think that at least from my perspective, the challenge has always been answering questions like, but is this working for us? Are we actually getting leads from this? Are we actually converting our prospects? How effective is this campaign that we are doing? So it's always been a challenge. It's always been a struggle. That's why I was emphasizing earlier on students having really good data analysis skills, because it's not enough to just be creative and create good content. I think that it goes hand in hand with you having that capacity, that knowledge and that expertise to prove that what you are doing is actually working, and presenting it is in such a way that is digestible to a wide array of people that don't have the same background and expertise as you. So for example, when talking to the CEO of the company, or to a higher level manager that is not knowledgeable of social media analytics, for example. So yeah, definitely a challenge. Measuring return on investment and proving the effectiveness of what you're doing will always be a challenge.
Okay. All right, thank you. Devin is asking, what social media tools do you use?
I have experimented with a few. We used to use Buffer in the beginning to schedule our posts and to track analytics. And recently, we've also started using Hootsuite to track social media analytics too.
Okay, so Buffer and Hootsuite.
Yeah, but I also rely a lot. So, for example, we do Instagram. I also rely a lot on the back end analytics of the app itself. So the Instagram analytics or the LinkedIn analytics that come with the premium package of the yeah, the premium package of LinkedIn. I believe the paid version of LinkedIn.
Elder is asking, do you have any recommended books, lectures, podcasts, or people to listen to?
When it comes to recommended books, there's actually one. There's two books that come in mind that I've recently read. One of them is Quiet by Susan McCain. That is a fantastic book and currently my favorite book. It's essentially it talks about being an introvert in a world of people that cannot stop talking. So I would highly recommend that book, even if you're an introvert, even if you're an extrovert. I think it's a fantastic read, regardless of your personality type. It's definitely, it shines a lot of light on how different personalities function in the workforce. So it's definitely a great book. And then another one that I have is, it's called The Well-Spoken Woman. I'm not sure exactly of who wrote it, but it's a great book on how to give effective presentations. And I don't really think it's just for women, although the title is it
Yeah.
includes women, it's targeted towards women. But it's a fantastic read on how to find the right presentation style to fit your personality, because we're all different and we present we speak in ways that are different and unique towards us. So it helps you find that inner voice, that inner presentation style.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Another question from Devin is, what strategies would you use to do you use to generate leads?
Well, we use LinkedIn Sales Navigator. So that's the premium version of LinkedIn. And what I would do is I would typically look for prospects based on their job title. So we deal with specific departments. We're looking for specific people in specific departments. So with the premium version of LinkedIn, you can look for a company. So for example, in this case, you could look for, say, people that work at Humber College, and then you can really narrow them down by the department that they work in, their role in the organization, whether they have recently changed jobs, how long they have been in this role. And then based on this, I create a list of leads that all fit our criteria. So I filter them down, and then we typically send a sales message to them. Like, we directly connect with them, send a sales message, and then it's typically followed up by a direct mail package. So we target the same lead twice, online and offline. And we would then follow up with them at a later time, asking if they have received the package and if they have any questions. So that's how we typically go about getting leads. We hyper target people, um, because keeping in mind that the company that I work for is business to business. I don't think that this would apply in a business to consumer type of situation, but in business to business, it works wonderfully because you have the opportunity to really tailor your message to that specific person in that organization. And we, like I said, we target them online with online strategies and offline strategies too. So
Okay. Alrighty. So those are the questions that we received from the audience. Thank you for your questions. We appreciate them. And so we'll now move on to the final section in our webinar, which is the rapid five questions. So in this segment, we have five questions for Irina, but she's only allowed to answer with only one sentence. I should have said one word, but one sentence. So the first question is, what is the best advice you have ever received?
Get comfortable with being uncomfortable. That's when learning happens.
Hmm, deep. The second question, what is the worst advice you have ever received?
You don't need all that school. What do you need all that school for? It's all about and how you sell yourself.
Interesting. What is your favorite book?
Quiet by Susan McCain.
Oh, yeah, that was the book you recommended earlier on. Okay, I'll have to read it because a few persons have been recommending it.
It's beautiful. It's a wonderful book.
Okay. The fourth question, what is your favorite travel destination?
Banff in Alberta.
And the final question, what is one thing you want to be remembered for when you leave this earth?
My really all-time famous fudgy brownies is what I want to be remembered for. My excellent baking skills and quirky sense of humor.
Awesome. I'm just curious, what does success look like to you?
That's a good question. Um, I think success is when you look back on yourself 3 months from now and you realize that you're not the same person anymore, realizing that you've inched your way a little bit forward compared to where you were only a few months ago. Small little steps. That's what success looks like.
Okay. Thank you so much, Irina. Thank you for agreeing to say to do this webinar with us on behalf of the DVSA. And Nadi, we want to say thank you for your time this morning, and thank you for the knowledge and the advice and the tips that you've shared with us. We greatly appreciate it, and we wish you the best in your future career endeavors and even your current career endeavors. All the best at Humber with your new role. So thank you very much. Thank you for the persons who joined us this morning. We appreciate your time. Don't forget to connect with us either on Facebook, Instagram, or website or YouTube channel where these webinars are also uploaded at a later date if you want to refer back to them. And you can also send us an email at dbsahumber@gmail.com if you need slides from previous webinars and so forth. That can be provided to you. And so thank you, everyone. And we wish for you an awesome weekend and day.